I just woke up and it was all these notifications, people like, what is this? We want more, we want more. And so I just decided to kind of like, for a week, I would just add a new line every day, and it was like super fun. And then
this podcast is all about you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new record that you have coming out tomorrow. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Cool.
Yeah. So, tell me first off, where were you born and raised?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
Almost 26 years ago. It's my birthday next month.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, my parents both immigrated here from Ethiopia.
Wow.
I think my dad was like 40 years ago. My mom almost 30. So, yeah, they came here. They met each other, had me and my brother, and happily ever after.
Well, what took them to Canada?
My dad actually left Ethiopia as a refugee, and then he came to Edmonton on a scholarship. And then my mom, she was just, one of her sisters was here, so she was sponsored.
Oh, wow. Wow,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
cool. I used to always ask them, like, why Edmonton? Because it's just so random. But yeah, I guess they each had their own little paths. Brought them here.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how did you get into music?
So I'd always loved music ever since I was like a kid. I don't really remember a time where I wasn't obsessed with singing or like listening to music around the house or whatever it was. I was just always such like an avid music lover. So I don't think there was ever a point where I wasn't into it. You know, it was just always a part of me.
Okay. And what did you start singing at an early age, or is that kind of where it started?
Yeah. I started I was really singing around the house ever since. My mom also was in the choir, so she was always singing. I guess I was kind of copying her. And then I think when I was about 8, my parents put me in piano lessons, and that's when like the musicianship of it like started happening. And it wasn't just like I love singing, but I love just making music and stuff. So yeah.
Wow. Did you start writing your own songs pretty early on?
No, it's weird because like I used to love writing like stories or poetry, and I love to read. And then I loved music, but I didn't put the two together until later in life, with a song called Lost Boy. That was like the first song I'd ever really written. So
Wow.
no, I didn't start writing songs until I was like older, which is, I look back and I'm like, it's so weird, but I guess everything happens the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah. So Lost Boy was the first song you ever wrote?
It was the first like full song I'd ever written. Yeah.
And then 600 plus million plays later.
Yeah, pretty insane for that to be the first song, for sure.
Is that wild to look at your Spotify and just think like this many millions of people have listened to my music?
Definitely.
Like,
Yeah, anytime even like someone says it like that, you don't get used to it. Never. It's like such a bizarre concept, but it's so cool that something I wrote casually in my basement in my pajamas eating Oreos like turned into something so crazy.
That's so amazing. I did read that you kind of got your start on Vine, right? Isn't that kind of what launched a little bit of your career?
Yeah, Vine definitely kind of started everything in terms of like me putting my music in front of people. I think up until then I was pretty shy. Like I didn't like performing. I didn't like singing in front of people. I just liked doing it in my room. Then Vine kind of allowed me to do that, but like people were watching, I just couldn't see them watching me, I guess. So yeah, I started like making these like 6-second videos, eventually making up 6-second clips, and one of them happened to be Lost Boy. That was the one that like really took off. But yeah, I definitely owe a lot of credit to Vine.
How did because I remember Vine. I didn't really dabble in Vine too much, but I remember watching a ton of them. But how did Lost Boy, do you remember, because I've talked to a few other artists that have like really gotten popular from Vine, like Anna Clendening was a big Vine person, but like how like did Lost Boy, was it shared by somebody that was like a Vine it was like influencers wasn't really a thing. It was just people had followings on certain platforms, but like how did that song really start getting in front of people? Do you remember?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I posted like the little snippet of it. It wasn't a song when I put it on Vine. I was literally just like messing around. I'd been watching a TV show about Peter Pan, so I kind of just like made up this line, I'm a lost boy from Neverland, usually hanging out with Peter Pan. Posted it and like went to bed, and the next day I woke up, it had like 84,000 likes or something. And that just never happened at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if someone like big shared it. Maybe that's what happened, but like I just woke up and it was all these notifications. People like, what is this? We want more. We want more. And so I just decided to kind of like for a week I would just add a new line every day, and it was like super fun. And then eventually I had a
Oh,
hook, and that's when
wow.
I was like, let me sit down and write this full song.
So it started with one line that went on Vine, and then you were adding to that one
Yeah.
lyric, and that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
what became the whole song. Wow, that's
Exactly.
fascinating.
Yeah, it was a wild time for sure.
That is so cool. So I mean, obviously people were following the song at that point. That must have been such a cool journey for people to kind of take with you. And
Yeah.
then now it's this massive hit. Like, wow.
It's so crazy. It's so, yeah, I would just literally come home. I was a first year college student at the time working at Marshall's, and I would like come home from school right before my shift and like make up a new line, post it, and just like be so excited to come home from work and read what people were saying and in the comments. But it's cool because it felt kind of like a collaborative effort with me and the listener. And I feel like maybe that's why it's like resonated with people a lot too, especially those core people who knew it before it was like what it is now. It was just like lines being added on Vine. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure there's so many people out there that are like, oh, I remember
Oh yeah,
when
people always say that to me.
I
People
was with
always, they're like, I
you.
was there.
I was there following you when you were 4 lines into the song. Like, this is so
Exactly.
cool. Like,
Yeah.
that is such a cool thing.
Yeah.
And well,
It's
from
dope.
that, we're like, I don't know how, like, I mean, nowadays, like if you put a song up on like Spotify, for example, and it gets a million plays, like record labels or TikTok, people are going to be like, oh, like record labels are going to start contacting you. Was it like that with Vine, or did you have that experience with that song?
Yeah, I did. So when it was on Vine, I guess here and there, but as soon as I like put it up on YouTube as a full song, that's when like everything started to happen. And I would like, it was funny. I was at work one day at Marshall's, and like somehow this management company from New York found out that I worked at Marshall's, and they'd called the Marshall's I was working at. And my
Whoa.
manager was paging me like, Ruth Berhe, on line one. And I pick up, and he's like, is this Ruth B? And I'm like, at the time, no one called me that. So I was like, yeah, I guess.
Sure.
And yeah, so it just, yeah, as soon as I posted it online, it was like different labels and different everything. And it was so overwhelming, but also so exciting for sure.
So what happened with the Marshall's call? Was your boss like, who the hell was that?
Yeah. My boss was like, what the heck was that? Because like people don't call that line unless it's like your family, like there's an emergency or something. And I
Right.
was like, dude, and no one at work knew that I was like doing Vine or anything, because that was very much my own thing. And I just explained quickly. I was like, well, I put the song up, and they were like all excited for me, like that's so cool.
Was it you said it was a management company?
Yeah, it was just, I don't even remember who, but it was some sort of company out based in New York.
Wow. And then so
Yeah.
the record labels are also contacting you at this point, and then are they kind of
Yeah.
courting you, trying to get you to sign with them? Like, tell me about that
Yeah.
experience a little bit.
Yeah, it's very much like what you hear like in movies and stuff, or with people flying you out and doing all this extravagant stuff to get you to sign with them and whatnot. And that
Steak
definitely was the
dinners and
case. Oh yeah, like amazing
Disneyland.
hotel rooms, One Direction tickets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, backstage pass to meet them. It was pretty intense. But it was just, I mean, I look back at that time, I'm like, I can't believe that was like my life. That was really intense.
That's
Yeah.
cool though.
Mm-hmm.
And then you decided to sign a deal. You put out your first record, and that does amazing. I mean, it goes
Yeah.
gold, which is
Mm-hmm.
huge. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, that was really exciting. And I think that time is when I really just fell in love with writing music and creating it. Again, Lost Boy was the first song, and then Safe Haven, those were like the next 11 that I'd written. And I made a point to write all the music myself, just because I wanted to look back at my first album and be like, that was exactly what I was going through, what I was feeling at the time. But yeah, there was also a lot of pressure with that too, following a song like Lost Boy. I just remember constantly being like nervous and stressed. And I think just even as I've grown, I'm like happy to know that I've kind of outgrown that a little bit. Just like not outgrown it. There's always pressure, but I
Hmm.
feel like for me that first album was like the most pressure I've probably ever felt with, and will probably ever feel in terms of making
Really?
music.
Yeah, I can't imagine that with
Yeah.
having a huge song like that right out the gate.
Right.
Then now you have this major label behind you, and it's like, okay, now you got to do it again. Not only do you have to do
Yeah.
it again, you got to provide 11 songs that are bangers like that first one.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I felt all of that, especially I think I was like 20 at the time. Like I just was like I was like sinking in it. But yeah, eventually, I mean, you just have to like not and then learn how to just like make the music and enjoy that because
Mm-hmm.
everything else is just outside noise, especially when you're making art. Like you don't want to make it because you're like aiming at something or this is the goal. And that's what I felt like a lot of people were like putting in my ear. Ultimately, I was like, I just want to make songs that people like. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. And then once the record's done, obviously it does amazing, goes gold. Like, do they put you on tour, or like how did that work?
Yeah, so my first like touring experience, I actually opened for Alessia Cara, who's a fellow
Wow.
Canadian. She's incredible. Yeah. And that was like super amazing, like such a great I think it was like 30 shows or something. So it was a lot
Wow.
right out the gate. Yeah. So I did that for a couple months and then took a break and then I did my own tour, which was like a lot. It was in 3 parts, but yeah, and that was a whole other experience as well, just because I mentioned earlier too that I had this like anxiety of being in front of people and stage fright was something I really had to overcome. But all those shows I think really, really like helped me do that. And that's probably the thing I'm the most proud of now is like that I actually love performing and enjoy it. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
before it was like I couldn't sleep the night before, I couldn't eat.
Oh,
Like it was
wow.
just it was
Yeah.
it was insane. But now
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it's my favorite part.
That's cool. And then you were also nominated for a bunch of Juno Awards too. That must have been, I mean, that's like the Grammys essentially of Canada, right? I mean,
Canada.
everyone knows the
Mhm.
Juno Awards there. Was that a
Yeah.
huge, I mean, I can't, obviously it was a huge deal, but was it at that point, was it kind of like a validating moment for like maybe your family? Like, okay, she's really an artist now. I mean, I don't know. Like, tell me about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even for me, it was really validating just because you come from like anytime I think you come from like a social media story or like a Vine thing, it's easy to feel like, oh, this is just like a fluke or whatever. But
Mhm.
when you actually start to see people appreciating your music and your writing for what it is, I think that just really like gives you the confidence to be like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. And the Junos was like such a monumental time in my life that I'll never forget. And yeah, it was crazy.
Wow. What was it like going to the award ceremony?
So cool, so cool. I mean, I had no expectations, so
Mhm.
to go there to win something was like insane, and I got to share it with my family. They were all there. My team was there. It was one of the best nights ever.
Wow. And you got to go 2 years in a row, right?
Yeah, yeah. I went 2 years in a row. I
And
think the next year I presented, which was fun, and I'd never done that before. But yeah, I mean, those awards are so fun, and there's always like familiar faces, and you get to catch up with people you haven't seen in a long time, so it's
Mhm.
cool.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, I want to know, where were you when this whole pandemic hit? Like, were you writing this record that's coming out tomorrow, or was this something that you fully wrote during this lockdown? Or
Yeah, so it was like 50-50. I was right before I started in 2019, I'd moved to New York where I was writing most of it, majority of it. And I think I had like 6 songs. And then as soon as like everything started happening, it made sense for me to just come back to Alberta until things blew over. And so I mean, I thought I'd be here for like a month, maybe two.
Mhm.
Obviously that turned into a lot longer, but I mean, I knew I was in the middle of working on an album and I didn't just want to put that on hold. So I set up a little home studio kind of here. And with my executive producer, we made it work. And it was like intense and hard because you go from like working in a studio every day to like back in your room. But I think in a way it was almost like nice for me just because it really brought me back in touch with like how I first started writing
Mhm.
and how I first fell in love with it, which is just me in my room on my keyboard. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like full circle
Well, I
to
was gonna say it's kind of
do
full
that.
circle for that first song that you did for Lost Boy, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you're
Exactly.
back to the
Yeah.
bedroom writing music.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Wow. So like with with this record you talked about, with that first album, you have this huge hit with Lost Boy, and it's like you got the pressure of trying to follow it up, right? With 11, 10, 11 more songs. Do you feel like now that you're on they always say like the second record, the sophomore record is always the hardest one because it's like your other album went gold. Like was that ever a thing in your head? Like, okay, now I got to follow up this first hit record, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think everyone I've talked to says the same thing. Like your second album is the most pressure. But again, I think for me, it was a unique experience in the fact that my first one felt like so much pressure that with this one, I was like, I'm taking my time. I'm doing things how I want to do them. And so I did exactly that. And I really just like lived life. And in the midst of it, I would write songs and I would have feelings and put them into music. But yeah, I think for me that it just didn't compare to the pressure from the first one. So for this one, I really did just have such an amazing time writing it.
That's awesome. And you've put out well, the most recent one is called Die Fast. And tell me about like how much of the record was written in Canada in your bedroom versus in New York?
Yeah, I would say like it's about a 50-50 split. I think I did like 6 of the songs there and like 5 here. I wrote one in LA like back in 2018. But yeah, Die Fast actually, I started writing that song like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And then it was just an idea I like revisited when we were working in New York. And originally it was like this really sad, slow ballad. And then I played it for my producer, Patrick, and he was like, this could be like fun and kind of up tempo. So it's one of those songs that completely underwent like a transformation. But I think that's again why I loved like making this album was that collaborative process, which I just didn't have for the first one. I was very much like, I'm going to do everything myself. Oh, this one, being able to work with other people, have their input, I think it made all the difference.
Mm-hmm. Were you able to write with people when you were in Canada? Like, was it over Zoom or like how was
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yeah, I did a lot of Zoom sessions, and there's some times too where I would travel to the US like last summer, and then I'd come back, and when you come back here you have a mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks, so I would literally just like be in a
Yeah.
hotel room or be in my basement for 2 weeks and just like on Zoom sessions over like all day. So it was yeah, it was quite the experience for sure.
It's a pretty tight lockdown there, right? Do you have to correct me if I'm wrong. I heard that if you come into here, say you came to the United States this week, right? And you're going to go
Yeah.
back, you have to go to like a government
Mhm.
issued like quarantine place.
Yeah, I just did that a couple months ago. I was in Ohio for a little bit visiting, and when I came back, I had to stay in a hotel for 3 days until you get a negative test. And then you have to finish the remainder of your 11 days like in a tight space. They send officers to make sure you're like not going out like randomly. And if you aren't, you
Really?
can get fined up to like $750,000. It's so crazy. It's finally starting to lift now. And they're saying if you're fully vaccinated that you don't have to do that. But yeah, for the past year it's been like you can't go anywhere because it's like that 2 weeks. It sounds like easy to do, but then when you're actually doing it, it's
That
tough.
sounds brutal.
It's brutal.
Oh
It's
my
not cool.
gosh.
Yeah.
So my family's from Ohio originally. So where
Oh,
were you in
cool.
Ohio?
I
I'm
was in
just curious.
Columbus. My boyfriend actually
Oh,
lives. He's in Columbus,
oh,
Ohio. So
Buckeyes. Is Buckeyes
yeah, he plays
fan?
for them. He plays for
Does he
them.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool. I went to
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
Buckeyes game. My uncle went to Ohio State,
Oh,
and
cool.
he because he's an alumni, he gets like maybe like one set of tickets a year because they're
Yeah.
so big. And I have never seen a crowd like that. Like 120,000 people, not one of them wearing the opponent's like shirt.
Holy crap. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he tells me about it all the time. I mean, I only got to watch his games during COVID. So like, and he's on the
Oh,
basketball team there. So it was like, it's like me and his family and like a bunch of the teammates' families. But he's always told me that their fans and crowds are like insane. And I'm like, I want to see it so bad.
it is crazy. Like
Yeah.
legitimately the whole city of Columbus, like the surrounding area of the college shuts down for the whole day. So if it's a football, your boyfriend plays on the basketball team.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've only been to the football game, the one football
Yeah.
game there. And
Yeah.
like there's this bar next to it called the Varsity Club. So
Mm-hmm.
like only 120,000 people can get into the stadium, but there's probably which is insane. But
Yeah.
the whole city's there and everyone is in front of their house drinking, like playing
Oh my
games, like got the
gosh.
game on the TV outside or the radio, and then they go to this bar called the Varsity Club, and it's like this huge parking lot, and every drink is in a can, and so they just throw the can. You just throw the cans in the ground. So I'm sure at the end that you can just like bulldozer them all up and just recycle all the.
Dang. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
nuts. It's quite. You need
Wow.
to go. It is like
I
the
have
most
to.
gnarly experience you'll ever, it's crazy.
So crazy. Yeah, you're just echoing what he says. That's insane.
Yeah,
so
it's
cool.
nuts. You need, once this all opens up again, your
sure.
mind is going to be blown because it is crazy.
That's so cool.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. Well, back to your record. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. So Die Fast is the most recent song, but the whole record coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about aside from having the album out?
Yeah, I'm really honestly just excited to kind of like let this piece of me go into the world. I think just because I've been working on it since like 2018, it's been with me. I'm like, yeah, for a while. So I'm just excited to like put it out there and give it to people and it not just be my little thing. And I feel like it's been a long time coming, 4 years is a lot for in between albums. So I'm excited for people to hear what the last little bit of my life has looked like.
I love it. And have you been working on new material ever since then, or is it just really focusing on this record?
Yeah, no, I've just been I'm like excited to not write for a little bit, honestly. Like I'm really pumped to just not think about writing or production or anything for a little bit because I feel like especially because of the whole quarantine thing, it's just been so much more like at the forefront and all I've been doing. So I'm just like excited to just not do that for a little bit.
Yeah, I can't imagine, especially coming back and having to deal. Like that is crazy to me that you get 3 days and then it's like, okay, negative test. Now you have to go home and then we're going to send people to your door to make sure that you're.
Yeah. And you have to get tested again. It's like, yeah, I mean, there's videos of people being like hauled out of airport. They were like scaring us, like hauling them out of airports into these facilities, like hotels. Yeah, it was quite the year here for sure.
Yeah. How's the hotel situation that they hook you up with? Is it rough or?
No, it's not rough. It makes you feel like you're like a wild like zombie or something because they're like in suit, like they drop your food off in like a bucket. Yeah, you don't see anyone. If you want to go outside, you can like call the front desk. They'll like, escort you for like 5 minutes to get air. Come back in. It's like, yeah, you feel like I'm okay. I'm not sick. Why is this happening to
me? Yeah. I mean, at least this will be something you could tell the kids.
I'm really excited. I have war stories. I'm excited.
You do definitely have war stories. Wow. Is there a TV in that room? I hope something to do with computer.
Yeah, there's a TV. I have my own. I had my computer and stuff, so I was okay. It was just,
just a drag.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Definitely.
Well, congratulations on the album. I cannot wait to hear it. And I don't know if you can say, but are you planning on doing any shows? Because it looks, I mean, you're kind of in the worst of it, but if you were able to come down to the States, I think stuff is opening up a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans to do that at all? Or do you not want to deal with the quarantine again?
No, there's definitely a light now for sure at the end of the tunnel in terms of touring. We're actually putting together a digital tour right now, which is kind of cool that I've been working on for the past month, which is nice because again, right now it's like the idea of touring live kind of seems crazy, but yeah, so I mean, I'm excited to at least be able to put the songs in front of people in a live setting, even if it's not directly in the same room.
That's cool. Yeah, so you're gonna do like are you gonna like perform the record somewhere or like have different? Or is it all gonna be different shows?
Yeah, no. So there's 4 different shows. They're kind of all over the world: Europe, Africa, America, Canada, Asia, and then yeah, we've already recorded it and stuff. And I think it's happening June 17th and 18th. And it's cool because I'm performing all the songs and then also giving like the backstories to how I wrote them, which I usually don't do. So it's like super intimate. It's in my hometown. Yeah, I'm excited for people to see it. It'll be fun.
That is really cool. What a cool experience. Were you able to do the show in front of anybody or was it just like to an open room?
No, it was just like me and the crew, and occasionally my friends would like pop in to say hi.
Was it kind of strange doing it that way or?
Yeah, I mean, it is, but I feel like the last like year, I mean, I've been doing so much like virtual online like recordings, performings and stuff. So you kind of get used to it. Obviously, it's like you wish there was people in the room and that it was like a real show, but I guess for now it'll suffice.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Ruth, for doing this. This has been great. I appreciate it. I do have one more question before I let you go. Yeah. Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Great question. Yeah, I think for me, I would just say, like, I always say to write your most honest music if you're writing. People always ask me, how do you write? How do you write? I think the best place to start is as if you're like writing in a journal. I always say that, like, just put your thoughts on paper, see what comes up. Something good is going to be in there. And then lastly, I always tell people, like, you have to be your biggest fan. And even though sometimes you're going to get down on yourself, you're going to hate everything you're doing, you can never give up on yourself, because the second someone else does, you're just like, it's going to be over if you don't have that belief in you. So yeah, just like, be solid in who you are, figure yourself out, but just always believe in yourself. Bringing it backward.